I'd been without food or water for 3 days, and finally managed to secure a lower berth on the green train to my hometown for the spring festival. Yay. But just as I put my luggage away and was about to lie down and rest, an old woman sitting in front of me suddenly turned and stared at me, hugging me tightly. Son, you should sleep. This place belongs to us. Are you talking about me? I looked at her in surprise, then at my luggage. My luggage took up half the berth. Besides the clothes, everything else was local specialties I'd taken home from my parents. 7 or 8 bags of different sizes. Did I look like someone who could keep getting up and down? The child's grandmother saw that I hadn't moved and said angrily, "Can't you see there's a 5-year-old here?" I said coldly, "So, haven't you found his parents?" "You're pretending to be parents," the grandmother's face immediately changed, and she said angrily, "Don't talk nonsense." Who's talking nonsense? You're telling me to quickly vacate my seat so you and the baby can sleep here? Don't you understand the concept of respecting the elderly and loving children? I couldn't help but roll my eyes. I've just boarded the train and I've already encountered these people. They want to force a berth change, and that too with me. Can't you see all my luggage, Abua? And don't you know that berth exchanges are completely optional? I don't want to change berths. Even if the TTE comes, it won't make any difference. And just because you're older doesn't mean you can do whatever you want. Grandma turned red with anger. She stuck her head out and screamed loudly. "TE! Where's the TTE? Is someone harassing an old man? Oh, my heart is breaking!" Her scream brought the entire coach's attention to us. A moment later, the conductor came barreling through the crowd. "What happened? What's the matter?" Seeing the uniform, Grandma slapped her thigh and began to cry. "This young man is refusing to change berths. Poor me, I'm almost 60 despite being so young. He's forcing me to climb up and down. He has no compassion at all." His grandson, acting like a real jerk, started crying loudly. Passenger sitting next to me said emotionally, "Hey, it's just a berth change. Give me your seat." "What will you lose? Don't give the elderly so much trouble during the journey." I laughed. Wow, now I'm being lectured. I looked at him and said, "Don't you have the right to refuse me a seat? What law says that just because someone is older I have to give up my seat? Think about others a little. If someone treated your parents like this while traveling, you'd be surprised." Then I said with a cold smile, "My parents are well-mannered. They would never force someone else's seat. Don't worry about that." Hearing this, Grandma became even more enraged. "Who are you calling rude? Who are you calling rude?" She was so angry she raised her hand to hit me. It was a good thing the conductor stopped her. "Mother, calm down. Calm down. I'll see if I can find an empty berth. It's okay." Hearing this, Grandma calmed down a bit and said, Okay, I need a lower berth and preferably a soft sleeper." I laughed. I need a soft sleeper too. I paid extra for a lower berth and a hard sleeper? The soft sleeper must have been sold out long ago. Are you dreaming? You want to sleep in a soft sleeper after paying for a hard sleeper just like I thought. Nobody. The conductor flipped through the register and looked worried. There were no proper hard sleepers or soft sleepers available. Finally, he said, "Mother, please let me go to a few more stations by tomorrow afternoon. Maybe then we can make an adjustment." Hearing this, Grandma burst out, "I'm getting off tomorrow afternoon and tomorrow evening. You want me and the child to wait that long? Look again. Or are you just not looking properly to save money?" The conductor was also taken aback. He hadn't expected Grandma's attitude to change so drastically. All the onlookers around fell silent. Anyone who didn't know the full story would think the conductor had siphoned off Grandma's money. Judging by her demeanor, she didn't seem like a sensible or understanding person. The attendant simply forced a smile and said, "Let's do this. I'll keep an eye out. If we find an empty berth, you can move there. But if the real passenger for that berth arrives, you'll have to give up the seat." But Grandma immediately refused, pointing her finger at me. "How is that possible?" He stopped. "I'm an old woman with a 5-year-old child. How are we supposed to move around so often? What if we bump into each other? Why don't you just tell this man to give up his seat?" I laughed. I've even stopped acting. "I'm not gonna move. I have so much luggage. Do you think it's easy for me to keep getting up and shifting?" The attendant was getting tired of the constant arguing. Fortunately, the head attendant arrived just then. She understood the situation and then asked Grandma, "If I'm not mistaken, your family has 3 berths here, Bucky?" Grandma nodded. "Yes. Then why don't you and the child sleep on the lower berth and your son and daughter-in-law can sleep on the middle or upper berth, Ida?" Hearing this, everyone suddenly understood. "Oh yes, they already have a lower berth. That's enough for Grandma and the child?" So why take someone else's lower birth? I already have something wrong. It seems so rude. This old woman was talking so rudely as if the boy had stolen her money. I thought only she and the child were traveling. I didn't realize the whole family was with me. Absolutely. Why aren't you guys saying anything? You have your own lower berth, right? Sleep in your own seats. Why do you need other people's seats? Hearing criticism from all quarters, the four of us were forced to return to our berths. The attendant also told everyone to remain calm and maintain order. I breathed a sigh of relief and sat down on the bed and started working on my phone. But my eyes kept wandering to the family in front of me. I was certain this journey wasn't going to be easy. Grandma had just said they would disembark at the last station around noon tomorrow. I still had a 30-hour journey ahead of me, and I had to live with these people. Who knows what else was about to happen? And indeed, just an hour later, the drama began again. The little boy in front of me started pouting and shouting, "I'm hungry! I need food," his grandmother said. Quickly, she took care of him and took out a cold steamed bun from her bag. Train food is expensive. Be a good boy. Grandma brought a bun for you. Eat this. But the boy made an angry face, bowed his head, took a small bite, and then threw the bun straight on the ground. "I don't want this. It's not tasty. I don't want it at all." Grandma looked completely helpless. "Son, listen to Grandma. Everything on the train is very expensive. Grandma will feed you something nice once you reach the station." But then the boy's eyes fell on the gift bags kept near me. His eyes lit up. Pointing with his finger, he said, "I want to eat that. Give me that sweet cake." He was pointing to my osmanthus cake, a local specialty I was taking home for my family. I ignored him, but the old woman immediately spoke up. "Son, my grandson wants to eat your cake. Can you give us 2 pieces?" He didn't even ask to buy it. He simply asked. I was already irritated. I refused, saying I was taking it home as a gift. Grandma's face immediately fell. "How can you be so stingy? I asked you to switch beds. You refused. Fine. But now you won't give me even a cake. Can't you see? The child is crying from hunger." The boy immediately joined her and began crying louder. "I'm hungry. I'm so hungry." His cries gave me a headache. The people around me also became irritated and started complaining. But Grandma acted as if she hadn't heard anything. The boy continued to shout, "I want sweet cake. I want sweet cake. I'm hungry. I'm dying." He was crying so loudly that his open mouth showed his red throat. I quietly put on my headphones and turned up the volume. In an instant, the world seemed much quieter. The child's grandmother scolded me for wearing headphones. "You have no humanity at all. You only asked for 2 pieces of cake. You could have given them to the child and kept the rest for gifts. You bought so much anyway. What difference will it make if you give me 1 less box?" I pretended I hadn't heard anything and continued on the phone. The grandmother saw that arguing with me would achieve nothing, so she leaned over and tried to reason with the child. "They're very stingy? Why are you insisting? You're so naive. Grandma will buy you a cake exactly like this once you get off the train." I was about to reply when a woman's voice came from the upper berth. "Is the child hungry? I have some biscuits. Here, son, eat them." She held out a packet of scallion biscuits. She gave me a smile. Her voice was soft like a gentle breeze outside. Grandma was finally happy. "Look, these are called people with a heart. You weren't even given a little food. How greedy you are." I chuckled. "Isn't there a dining car on this green train? If you're so hungry, go and buy some food. And if your child is so keen on begging, put him on a footbridge. He'll get more." Grandma was about to explode with anger when the woman from upstairs came down. I remembered she had boarded from the previous station. I wondered what kind of family this was. Now this biscuit lady was looking at me as if I were guilty. She said, "Sir, why are you arguing so much with a little child? He asked for a little snack, so what? I'll give it to him." I rolled my eyes. I felt this biscuit lady consider herself very noble and great. Grandma too looked very happy and proud in front of her. It was written all over his face. "See, there are good people in this world." And perhaps in her mind she was thinking about me. "This boy is so small-hearted he'll definitely remain a bachelor all his life. Who will marry him?" I said nothing. When I remained silent, the biscuit lady stroked the child's head. "It's okay, son. You have to eat slow. If you're hungry, I have more." But the child didn't even look at her or say, "Thank you," or... He snatched the packet and started stuffing the biscuits into his mouth full of oil and biscuit crumbs. The biscuit lady frowned. Perhaps she didn't like the child's misbehavior. But to maintain her image as a good person, she said nothing. I silently watched the mischievous child. He hadn't eaten a proper meal since boarding the train. And 4 to 5-year-olds have delicate stomachs anyway. If she ate such a large packet of oily scallion biscuits and drank cold water, she was almost certain to have an upset stomach tonight. And given the way her grandmother pampered her, she actually got diarrhea. The entire train would be on top of her, and even this biscuit lady wouldn't be able to escape. Oh, I had a feeling she would be asked for a compensation of at least 4,000 yuan. Now I was just praying that the biscuit lady would get off at the next station. But fate seemed to have more trouble for this family. After 3 hours, around noon, the train finally stopped. Initially, everyone thought it was a normal stop. But then an announcement came over the loudspeaker. The mountain road ahead was closed due to heavy snowfall. Many trains were stuck in the line, waiting for the road to reopen. It was estimated the train would leave in about 6 hours. Please be patient. Upon hearing this, a flurry of complaints erupted in the coach. But the evening wore on. Night fell, and the train still hadn't left. Now everyone was really worried. What was going on? Why wasn't the train still running? 6 hours had already passed. And how much longer would we have to wait? Is this a hoax? Did you notice? The heating wasn't working properly. Could the fuel be running out? Rumors began to spread, and people slowly began to panic. Then someone blurted out, "We haven't even eaten yet. Are you deliberately stopping the train on the tracks and forcing us to buy expensive food?" A worried train attendant quickly explained, "Please don't panic. The train will leave as soon as the road is clear. All supplies will be refilled at the next station, and don't worry about food. Free boxed meals will be distributed to all passengers shortly." But someone immediately asked, "Free meals? Do you have that much food? They say trains don't keep a large stock to avoid wastage. At most, it's for 70–80% of the passengers. Surely some people won't get any food." Then someone in the crowd shouted loudly, "Then what are you waiting for? Hurry to the dining car and grab whatever you can get." In an instant, the entire coach shook. People rushed to the dining car in a panic. Everyone was afraid that if they were late, they wouldn't have any left. Seeing this, I swallowed hard, but I was traveling alone, and the family in front of me was already eyeing my food. I was sure that if I left my seat and went to the dining car, all my food would be gone by the time I returned. Anyway, there was so much chaos in the dining car that even going there, I probably wouldn't have gotten anything. The child's grandmother looked at me sideways, wrinkled her nose, and said, "Look, he'll just sit there." Then she signaled to her son and daughter-in-law, "Hurry up and get some food." A full half-hour later, they returned, carrying a mountain of boxed lunches, snacks, cold drinks, and instant noodles. It looked like you just robbed the dining car. "Oh, my dear grandson," Grandma happily said, "Grandma, I've brought you a boxed lunch of meat." But when the box was opened, the food inside had become completely clumped together like a soggy mess, and the meat was just a few small black pieces that didn't look appetizing at all. The boy immediately made a face and said, "I don't want this. I want instant noodles." The grandmother compelled to get hot water. But by then, the water was almost gone, and what was left wasn't even hot enough. The noodles were made anyway. The boy enthusiastically took a bite of the noodles and spat it all out. "Papa, these noodles are so hard." His father lost his patience. He lightly slapped him on the head. "You should eat something yourself. Why are you throwing a tantrum over everything? You don't eat boxed lunches. You don't eat noodles. There's nothing else on the train. Eat whatever's there." The boy looked a little scared. He didn't argue further. He took 2 or 3 bites out of compulsion, then picked up the bottle of ice-cold cola he was holding and started drinking continuously. I watched silently. I thought to myself, he's sure to have an upset stomach tonight, and that's exactly what happened. Around 12 o'clock midnight, the boy began having severe diarrhea. He ran to the toilet repeatedly, crying and screaming. His cries kept many people awake. She woke up. "Someone take care of the baby. Why are you making so much noise in the middle of the night? Everyone is asleep." I had just dozed off and woke him up again. But instead of apologizing, Grandma said haughtily, "The baby is sick. So what if I made a little noise? Have you never had children? Don't children ever fall ill? Or will you never have children?" As soon as people recognized his voice, everyone understood it was pointless to argue. One by one, everyone fell silent. In just 2 hours, the boy ran to the toilet more than 10 times each time, sheeping and crying in pain. The constant diarrhea worsened his condition, his face turning pale and his lips turning blue from the cold. When the toilet paper ran out, his grandmother washed his backside with cold water from the sink. The cold water worsened his condition. By morning, his lips were cracked. Dark circles had formed under his eyes. There was no life left in his entire body. He was just sobbing softly, unable to even speak a complete sentence. Now the grandmother was truly terrified. She ran to the conductor and screamed, "My grandson is going to die from such severe diarrhea. Are you people human? Do you even know how to handle emergencies? Arrange a vehicle right now and take my grandson to the hospital," the conductor explained helplessly. "Mother, the mountain road is blocked by heavy snow. No vehicle can reach here." But the grandmother, she was in a completely different world. "So call a helicopter." The conductor was stunned for a moment. This is a mountainous area. Visibility is very low. The helicopter could crash here. But the grandmother screamed even more frantically. "My grandson is dying. You guys will just sit there with folded hands and watch. Whether it crashes or anything else, call a helicopter. This is completely unfair." Suddenly the boy's eyes rolled back and he collapsed unconscious on the berth. The grandmother screamed and sat down on the ground. Then she looked at me angrily. Her eyes were burning like fire. She lunged straight at me and raised her hand to hit me. "It's all your fault, you miser. If you had given my grandson that cake, none of this would have happened. If my grandson dies, you'll have to pay for his life." Luckily, the conductor reacted quickly and grabbed her and pulled her back. "That's it, mother. Right now is not the time for arguments. I'll make an announcement immediately and see if there's a doctor on the train. Maybe a passenger can help him." Grandma slapped her thigh hard. Yes, call a doctor quickly. I'll come with you." With that, Grandma and the conductor hurried forward. At that moment, I quietly got up and headed for the broadcast room. I immediately went to the broadcast room and made an announcement for help. Soon the announcement echoed throughout the train. "A 5-year-old child on the train is suffering from severe gastroenteritis, diarrhea, collapse, and shock. If any passenger has a doctor, please immediately come to Coach 4 and examine the child." I repeated the announcement again. "If any passenger has a doctor, please immediately come to Coach 4 and examine the child." After the announcement, I stood in the aisle and looked around. There was silence everywhere. Some people were still asleep, and most of those who were awake thought it wasn't their case. It seemed finding a doctor would be difficult. But after a while, I heard faint footsteps in the distance. I immediately turned to look. The child's father was completely focused on his son. I took the opportunity and went towards the connecting carriage, and it happened exactly as I had imagined. A young woman, wearing glasses, was hurrying towards us. A serious expression. As she passed me, I whispered, "This family is a bit difficult. I called, be careful." I was just offering a well-intentioned warning. But upon hearing my words, the doctor adjusted her glasses and looked me up and down. Then she said, "I'm a doctor. It's my responsibility to save lives. I don't know what your problem is with these people, but the child is innocent." I felt as if she had mistaken me for the villain. I fell silent. The doctor approached the child and knelt down to examine him. After examining him, she said that the child had probably developed acute gastroenteritis from consuming too much oil or a cold drink. She advised him not to eat or drink anything. Give him only lukewarm water and oral rehydration solution, and take him to the hospital as soon as we reach the station. Just then someone asked, "Doctor, he ate a whole packet of scallion biscuits yesterday morning. Could that have been the reason?" Hearing this, the biscuit-selling lady's face went pale. She was furious but couldn't muster the courage to say anything. Everyone knew the child's grandmother could blame anyone and try to extort money. If the doctor had simply said it was because of the biscuits, the poor biscuit-selling lady wouldn't have gotten off this train alive. But the doctor shook his head. "No, that alone doesn't guarantee it." The grandmother's face fell. She thought she'd finally found a chance to blame someone. But when the doctor didn't support her, she immediately became furious. And when the doctor refused to let the child eat anything, she exploded. "This doctor seems fake. She's not professional at all. Get out. My grandson doesn't need you." With that, she practically pushed the doctor out. The doctor was stunned for a moment. She had come to help without taking any money, but instead received abuse. There was no point in arguing. As she left, she looked back at me. There was something in her eyes, as if she wanted to say something, but couldn't. I just smiled slightly. I had already warned her. She had misunderstood what I said. Now she saw what had happened. Seeing all this, I too was afraid that I might get into trouble. I took the opportunity and quietly packed my things and headed straight for the dining car. When I got there, I saw that the dining car was almost empty. Only a few hungry staff members were sitting on their phones. I smiled. Then I took out my snacks and shared them with them. It wouldn't have been a bad idea to make some friends. A staff member laughed and said, "Hey, what a decent man you are. Did you bring snacks or not? We'll let you sit here." I just smiled. I trusted the train staff. They understood the rules, were responsible, and could understand things. But outside in the coach, everyone was a stranger, and fights with strangers could flare up at any moment, especially since I had already angered that annoying family, Manly. So staying in the dining car seemed safer. Everyone made hot water for themselves. We started chatting while eating snacks. In the course of conversation, I recounted the entire story. As soon as I heard this, a staff member sitting nearby suddenly said, "Wait a minute, are you talking about that family consisting of an old woman, her son, daughter-in-law, and a little grandson? He looks very cunning, and he's extremely greedy." I immediately nodded. Yes, those same people. The lady slammed her hand on the table. Just those people. We told them so many times yesterday not to touch the staff's belongings. But that kid's father came right in and opened our staff meal cabinet. He took all the food we had for the staff. He didn't leave a single meal for us. Another staff member sitting next to me immediately chimed in. "She's absolutely right. That kid only knows how to steal drinks," a staff member said angrily. Yesterday his foot almost got crushed under a trolley, and instead of paying, his grandmother started yelling at us, saying we hadn't arranged the supplies properly and her grandson had gotten hurt. She was demanding compensation. This was beyond measure. Another staff member took the matter further. And how much of the box lunches they had taken? They just took out some meat, some vegetables, and threw the rest away. When I went to clean up, I found a whole heap of rice in the dustbin. Honestly, it was disgusting. Then I understood. So the box lunch the boy had snorted and spat out last night was actually the staff meal. Thinking about it, I got angry too. This family was truly shameless. The staff member suddenly remembered something. She quietly asked. The reason for calling a doctor on the loudspeaker was because of that little grandson moan. I nodded. Yes, he's had severe diarrhea. He's completely weak. But his life isn't in immediate danger. Dee Dee pursed her lips and made a nasal noise. It's good. As you sow, so shall you reap. A staff member sitting nearby sighed. It's good you brought snacks. Otherwise we would have starved by evening, I said with a smile. I just wanted to avoid trouble, so I thought I'd sit here quietly until the train reached the station. You guys know that family. Baya placed a hand on my shoulder. Don't worry. Stay here comfortably. We've locked the door. They won't be able to come here and disturb you. I smiled and said, Okay. Thank you. In exchange for some boxes, sweets, and snacks, I'd made good friends with the dining car staff. They even gave me a bench where I could lie down and rest. I was full. The heater in the dining car was running at full power. After staying awake and alert all night, my eyes closed quickly. This time I was so deep in sleep that I didn't notice anything. Then suddenly I heard loud cries and screams from outside. Open the door! Open the door! Help! The voice sounded familiar. I immediately sat up and listened carefully. It was the child's grandmother. I frowned and peeked out the window. The grandmother's face was twisted with pain and panic. She was banging furiously on the dining car doors and windows. Behind her stood the child's father. His face was also pale and serious, and he had the little boy in his arms. His eyes were closed. His eyebrows were pinched, and I saw something red at the corner of his mouth. The blood froze for a moment. Was he really vomiting blood? A strange thought crossed my mind. The dining car chef called out, unconcerned. What do you guys want? This is the dining car. There's no food left here. If you're hungry, there's no point in bothering us. The grandmother screamed, almost crying. My grandson is vomiting blood. He's fainted. We need to find a doctor in coach number 9. Let us go. Then I remembered. The dining car was coach number 8. I was originally in coach number 4, and the doctor who had examined the child was traveling in coach number 9. This meant that if they wanted to reach the doctor, they would have had to go through the dining car, and they would have surely seen me while passing through. The chef glanced at me for a moment. I immediately ducked into a corner of the kitchen and hid myself from everyone's sight. The chef understood what I meant. He opened the door. "Go quickly. Don't stay here." Grandma didn't even notice. She ran with the entire family to coach number 9. When everyone had passed, I slowly got out and watched their faces as they walked away. Coach number 9 was a hard seat compartment. The train had been stopped for almost 24 hours. The passengers in the hard seats were already fed up. It wasn't easy to sit in one position for so long in such a crowded place. Anyways, irritation was clearly visible on everyone's faces. And then suddenly this family entered. Their voices echoed throughout the coach. Doctor, please save my grandson. My grandson is dying. He's unconscious and muttering nonsense. What should I do?" The doctor's face grew even more serious. He said softly, "I'm sorry. I don't have the strength to treat him." The grandmother broke down upon hearing this. "Doctor, don't say that. Please save my grandson, my beloved grandson. He's my life." With that, she fell to her knees with a thud. A thud. The entire coach's attention was drawn to her. Crying, she began to scream. "If I said something bad to you earlier, I apologize. It was my mistake. Please forgive me, son." As she continued, she began slapping her own cheeks. Slap, slap. The doctor's face darkened. She cried, "Please don't put me in trouble. I really can't treat your grandson." But the grandmother wouldn't stop. She screamed even louder. "Just because I question your medical skills, will you now take revenge on my grandson? Do you want my grandson to die?" She stood up and deliberately spoke louder so the whole coach could hear. "Yes, I am an illiterate old woman. I don't understand medicine or alcohol. I was just worried about my child and said something rude. Don't take it to heart. The most important thing right now is to save his life." Slapping herself again, she said, "Do I need money? Or take my life, whatever you want. Just save my grandson." Hearing all this, the people around her started feeling uncomfortable. The grandmother's words were directly putting the doctor under moral pressure, as if the doctor did nothing, then the entire fault was his. The doctor's patience started to wear thin. She suddenly stood up and spoke louder. "When I went to coach number 4, I clearly told him not to give the child anything to eat or drink, just water or rehydration solution, and to take him to the hospital as soon as we reached the station." The doctor paused for a moment, then looked directly into Grandma's eyes and said, "Then tell me, do you know why the child is vomiting blood?" Grandma's face immediately changed, but she still insisted, "How do we know? We're not doctors. He was just lying there. How would we know? This all happened because you didn't properly diagnose his condition beforehand." The doctor probably didn't expect these people to go to such lengths. She adjusted her glasses, then suddenly pointed to the child's collar. "What is this? Isn't this instant noodle soup? Did you feed him instant noodles?" Hearing this, everyone's attention turned to the child, and indeed, there were dried water and small pieces of the noodle vegetable stuck to his collar. In an instant, everyone understood, while the doctor's advice was disobeyed. The story ended there. Someone whispered, "I already thought this grandmother pampers her grandson so much, ain't I? It's impossible she wouldn't feed him when he's hungry." Now, the grandmother's lie had been exposed. She trembled with anger. "What do you care what my grandson eats? The child is in trouble now. You're a doctor, right? You have to save him." Then she pointed her finger and threatened, "If anything happens, my grandson will sue you for illegal medical practice and we'll ruin you." The doctor was taken aback for a moment. She had tried to help to no avail, and in return, she received threats, accusations, and blackmail. Were these people really human? And anyway, the train had no proper medicines or emergency equipment. The child was vomiting blood after eating something wrong. What could the doctor do with her bare hands? Then perhaps she remembered what I had said. "This family is a bit difficult, be careful." She slowly raised her head and looked towards the dining car. Our eyes met. I simply shook my head. There was no point in regretting it now. It was too late. Meanwhile, Grandma was still acting out. sometimes crying, sometimes screaming, sometimes slapping herself, sometimes threatening, sometimes falling to her knees. The entire coach was filled with a headache. The passengers' faces were growing worse. Luckily, the train attendant arrived just then. She immediately separated the two passengers and said, "Please return to your coaches. Don't go and cause a ruckus in the other coaches." But Grandma exploded again. She slapped her thigh and screamed, "My grandson is dying, and you're still talking about maintaining order. Tell this doctor to save my grandson." The doctor's face showed her patience had reached its limit. Her stance was clear and firm. "I really can't treat your grandson here, sure. Take him to the hospital as soon as the next station arrives. Maybe he can still be saved." But Grandma refused to listen. "You just don't want to save him. What did I call you unprofessional earlier? You got so upset. What's the point of having 80 doctors to let a patient die?" It was difficult for anyone to intervene at the scene. The train attendant and the person in charge tried to pacify them. They wanted to send them back to their coach, but this effort backfired and led to a huge commotion. Suddenly, Grandma turned her head and looked at me. Her gaze also fell on an empty food box on a nearby table. The box was completely empty. Not a single piece was left. It was clear it had just been eaten, and Grandma's face instantly turned red. She screamed with disbelief and anger. "You gave your pastries to these useless railway workers, but not a single one to my grandson." I was truly shocked. "These are my pastries. I can give them to whoever I want. What do you have to do with it?" But Grandma's thoughts were now in a different direction. She pointed her finger and screamed. "If you had given my grandson the pastries first, he wouldn't have eaten those stupid Callian biscuits. If he hadn't eaten the biscuits, he wouldn't have had diarrhea. If he hadn't had diarrhea, he wouldn't have been so weak. If he hadn't been weak, he wouldn't have gotten up and asked for instant noodles. If he hadn't eaten the noodles, he wouldn't have vomited blood. And if he hadn't vomited blood, he wouldn't have fainted today. So you're the real culprit. You killed my grandson. You'll have to pay for his life." Her logic was so twisted that even those listening were stunned. The truth was that even if the child had eaten the pastries, he wouldn't have been full. He seemed more greedy than hungry. And judging by his habits, it seemed that a stomach bug was bound to happen sooner or later. But the truth didn't matter to Grandma. She rushed towards me, crying and screaming. Luckily, the attendant's reaction was very quick. She immediately grabbed Grandma's collar and stopped her. The attendant said angrily, "What are you doing? You didn't take care of the child. Why are you blaming others?" But the grandmother started screaming even louder. "I won't listen to anything. It's all his fault. If he had given my grandson pastries, he wouldn't be in this condition today." She started crying again. "Oh, my dear grandson, this man is your murderer. If anything happens to you, turn into a ghost and go after him." Hearing her words, I felt both amused and angry. I looked at the entire family in front of me. The child's father stood holding his son in his arms. His eyes stared at me, his face dark and angry. The mother also glared at me, but two attendants held her back. The grandmother was also held tightly by the chief attendant. Now it was my turn to speak. I cleared my throat and said, in a calm voice, "Mother, after listening to you, it seems logic has taken a leave of absence today." Grandma paused for a moment. Perhaps she wasn't used to someone responding to her like this. "What did you say?" I continued. "As soon as you boarded the train, you started asking everyone for food. When you didn't get it, you tried to force it. You ate other people's food. You stole the staff's meals. Then you even blamed them. What kind of decency is this?" A slight smile appeared on the faces of some people nearby. I continued. "The doctor clearly told you not to feed the child anything. You didn't listen to him. Now, when the condition is worsened, you're blaming everyone. First, the doctor was wrong. Then, the biscuit lady was wrong. Now I'm wrong. If the wind picks up tomorrow, you'll blame someone else." Grandma's face became even more distorted. I didn't stop. I gave the pastries to the staff, so at least they ate and worked. They gained the strength to run the train and handle passengers. I could have given it to your grandson. Maybe he would have eaten something else after that. Still, I would have been blamed. You might have said the pastry caused an intestinal blockage. Or you might have said I made him sick by giving him the pastry. Some people have a habit of blaming others for everything. Silence fell over the coach. Everyone watched Grandma's reaction, and she was shaking with anger, but for a moment she was at a loss for answers. Well, you should be thanking me, I said, with a cold laugh. You guys were the ones who started stealing the staff's food. If I hadn't brought the pastries, these poor staff members would have fainted from hunger long ago. By the time they regained consciousness and started the train, your grandson would have been in his grave long ago. Then tell me, how could he have survived? I continued. Grandma's face turned white with anger. She beat her chest and screamed, "Oh God, what sin have I committed? What kind of poisonous boy is this? Do you want to kill me by cursing me?" "Oh, whoa," I said. She pretended to fall to the ground. The doctor standing behind her stared coldly at her, then suddenly interrupted. "If you fall this time, remember, no doctor will come to save you on this train. After all, not everyone dares to risk their lives by treating you without reason." Grandma's heart was pounding. Larege. She couldn't bring herself to actually fall, nor could she swallow her anger. She just stared at me with murderous eyes. Finally, the train attendants escorted her back to her coach. When the entire family left, the doctor came and sat down in front of me with a slight embarrassment. "Look, I didn't know you were warning me. I thought you didn't want me to help them." I just shook my head without saying anything. After all, she didn't know the whole story. She was just passionate about saving lives. The mistake wasn't a big one. It was just a little innocence and a lot of idealism. But I had nothing to do with such saintly thinking. There was nothing left between us to discuss. The doctor stared out the window at the snow-capped mountains. She gave a small, hesitant smile and fell silent. I said nothing. We both sat in silence for a while. Then suddenly the train jerked off. I took a deep breath. The next station was just half an hour away. I thought, let the family get off and then I could return to my berth in peace. The doctor was probably thinking the same thing. Her face seemed much more relaxed than before. I could clearly see the joy in her eyes as she gazed out the window. But then a new tragedy struck. I suddenly heard the sound of running footsteps. The thump was so heavy it felt like a wild buffalo was running straight toward us. I looked up and my face changed instantly. It was the child's father. His face was flushed. He had a large suitcase in his hand, swinging it toward us with all his might. "Be careful!" I yelled loudly, and ducked under the table without delay. The doctor tried to escape, but it was too late. The suitcase landed flat on his shoulder. It hit me. The doctor screamed with a thud. I immediately turned around. The child's father was standing in front of me. I yelled in surprise, "Have you gone mad? Why are you hitting me?" His eyes were wide with anger. "You're all responsible for my son's death. I'll kill you all." At that moment, my eyes fell on his collar. There was fresh blood as if it had just been hit. The back of the coach was also in chaos. It was clear he had hurt someone else. Then my eyes fell on a woman's shoe on the ground, and suddenly Biscuit Didi's face flashed in my mind. I wondered if he had attacked Biscuit Didi too. But I didn't have time to think. The child's father reached the doctor in an instant. He grabbed the doctor's collar and punched him straight in the face. Thud, the doctor screamed. Her glasses shattered. Shards of glass pierced her face. Blood immediately began to flow from her nose. Tears welled up in her eyes. My face changed. Without thinking, he picked up the suitcase on the table and threw it at the man with all his might. The suitcase hit his chest. He cried out in pain, but didn't fall. Instead, the fire in his eyes intensified. "You bastard. I haven't even settled my account yet, and you're right in front of me." With that, he let go of the doctor and lunged at me. I immediately stepped aside and ran toward the back of the coach. There were more people there. Maybe I'd find an attendant or security guard. But I'd overestimated my speed. I'd run only a few meters when suddenly I felt a powerful blow from behind. He grabbed my collar and pulled me back. The next moment, his fist, as big as a sack of sand, was coming straight for my ear. I could hear the punch ripping the air. I could even hear the gasps of the passenger standing behind. I shouldn't have gotten in the way. That was the only thought that crossed my mind. But then, when the punch was just 5 centimeters from my face, someone suddenly grabbed his arm and pulled him back. I immediately turned around. I looked back and saw the train attendant running, panting. She held the boy's father tightly and yelled, "Stop! What are you doing? You've already injured 2 people. Do you still want to break the law?" But the boy's father had gone completely mad. He ignored the attendant and instead charged at him, bit him. Luckily, the doctor, still barely able to stand with her nose bleeding, staggered to the scene and tried to stop the fight. I could clearly hear attendants from both coaches running. As soon as they saw the scene, they surrounded the boy's father and restrained him. I breathed a sigh of relief, but my legs were still shaking. I sat down near the door. The kitchen staff immediately came to me and helped me up. "Are you okay?" I nodded. "I'm fine. My legs have become weak from all the running." The purser had thrown the child's father to the ground and handcuffed him. Behind them, attendants were reporting the injuries. 2 people were injured. One had a facial injury, but it wasn't serious. The other had a broken heart. He had several soft tissue injuries, including a mild concussion. He was still unconscious and needed to be taken to the hospital immediately. The unconscious person was probably Biscaditi. My heart sank upon hearing this. I never imagined the child's father would fatally attack an innocent passenger over such a trivial matter. These people were truly a nest of poisonous snakes. But Sir shook his head seriously. "Keep an eye on the child's mother and grandmother. Don't give them a chance to cause any more commotion. Everything will be under control at the next station." Then he looked at the child's father lying on the ground. His eyes were bloodshot. But Sir took a deep breath. "Why did you do all this? Now you'll spend the New Year in jail." The child's father came home, gritting his teeth and speaking softly. "My son is gone. Everything is over for me. Where will the New Year be now? It doesn't matter to me. But I won't let them all go. Not even one. Everyone will have to pay with their life." He glared at me as if he would eat me alive. I was absolutely certain that if he hadn't been handcuffed, he would have pounced on me right then. The train conductor thought it useless to talk to him further. He took him straight away. At the next station, all the injured and the attackers were to be disembarked. Soon the train arrived at the station. Through the crowd, I clearly saw a small body being carried on a stretcher. A white sheet was draped over it, so the mischievous child was indeed dead. The greed for a few morsels had taken his life, or perhaps it was the blind pampering of his family. The grandmother followed the stretcher, crying. Her voice had become hoarse. Her screams and sobs were drawing the attention of the people around. What happened? Has someone had an accident? There appears to be a child. Is that his grandmother? Anyone guess? I heard the train was stuck in the mountains for over 20 hours. The other said after that. Hearing this, is human. No one helped my grand. Everyone is stone-hearted. There was a doctor on the train, yet they didn't save my grandson. I'll sue everyone. Everyone will have to pay for this. As the drama unfolded, more people gathered around. Everyone started asking, "What happened? Tell us." "We'll raise your voice online. There's no need to be afraid." The grandmother saw people listening to her, so she immediately began her story. "My grandson caught gastroenteritis because of food someone gave him on the train. He started vomiting. Then he fainted. The train was stuck in the mountains. There was a doctor on the train, but he did nothing. He just stood there watching. Tell me, what good is such a doctor? What's the use of such medical training?" Hearing this, the crowd erupted in anger. What kind of doctor is this? He let a child die. There's no humanity in this. Is there no such thing as medical ethics? Which hospital does such a doctor work in? His hospital should be complained against. Such a person has no right to be a doctor. This is too much. The child was still young. If we find such a doctor tomorrow, he should be prosecuted. Seeing the crowd's anger, I could clearly feel the doctor standing next to me faint. She herself was a victim. She had tried to help. She had even been beaten. But a few false words from Grandma had made her a criminal in the eyes of the people. The doctor-patient relationship is already quite tense these days, and on top of that, a woman who distorts the truth could ruin anyone's life. When I saw Grandma about to point her finger at the dining car, I couldn't control myself. I ran straight to the door and shouted loudly, "You people disobeyed the doctor. The doctor had forbidden us to feed the child anything, but you people kept feeding him whatever you wanted. Now that the child is dead, you're blaming the doctor. And on top of that, you're accusing him of illegal medical practice. Are you making a joke? I didn't stop myself and blurted out, your son is his own son's murderer. He pushed his own child to death. Then, in a fit of rage, he attacked an innocent passenger. He hit the doctor. He knocked the woman unconscious. The trained police have arrested him, and still you're spreading lies. Do you want the whole family to spend New Year's in jail? Grandma's face changed instantly, but she didn't give up. She still felt that public opinion was with her. She immediately started screaming, how dare you speak? If you were such a frugal mother and had given my grandson a few pastries, he wouldn't have eaten anything wrong. He would be alive today. After all, your miserliness is the reason for my grandson's death. You're a murderer too. With that, she wiped away her tears, slapped her thigh, and began to cry. Oh God, there's no justice. If I hadn't made even the slightest mistake, my grandson would still be alive. Now the real culprit is blaming me. What kind of times have we come to? Grandma cried out in panic, but the trained police officer was absolutely stern. He said coldly, if you obstruct traffic and railway operations and delay the train, your crime will be even more serious. Grandma insisted again. I'm an elderly woman. I laughed and taunted her. Don't expect to be forgiven just because you're old. No one, young or old, has the right to lie and talk nonsense, especially when it comes to extorting money through false rumors. Spreading rumors and misleading people is a legal offense punishable by up to 3 years in prison. Grandma's face changed upon hearing this. She immediately fell silent. She simply stared at me with a venomous gaze. Finally, without a word, the train departed with the police escort. As soon as he left, the entire atmosphere calmed down. Only then did order return to the station. Those who had just been standing there watching the drama came to their senses. Everyone hurriedly boarded the train. After all, they too had endured the cold and fatigue of the station all night. Everyone just wanted to sit back and relax. The train departed on time. Perhaps to help me and support me through the entire ordeal, the uncles and aunts in the dining car brought me a wonderful free boxed meal. Not only the boxed meal, but also a fresh fruit platter and some delicious braised dishes. The rest of the journey went quite comfortably. I chatted with them, played cards, and enjoyed my meals. I didn't even realize when the time passed. Finally, my destination arrived. I stood up, picked up my bag, and prepared to disembark. I had eaten so much food and shared so much with others that the several bags of local specialties I had brought with me were almost finished. Much of the groceries I had brought for my family were also used up, so I didn't have any special gifts to give back. But that's okay. At least I was getting home safely. I wasn't hurt or seriously injured, and despite the crazy journey, it ended quite peacefully. That was enough for me.